If you recently watched The Talented Mr. Ripley, chances are you're pining for a trip to Italy. And while you might not be able to get there right away, you can still experience some of the joys of the European seaside from the comfort of home. Hi, I'm Michelle Hickey, Director of Film and Paper Club. In this video, you'll have the opportunity to experience our first community event where my sister Laura and her partner Dom teach us how to make Italian-inspired cocktails. Afterwards, we sip our drinks while chatting about The Talented Mr. Ripley, where we're also joined by community members Ray and Kathy. If you're someone who loves movies, television, books, and snacks, be sure to subscribe and hit the thumbs up button so you won't miss out on any of the content we release on this channel. Tune your saxophone and get your cocktail shaker ready. Our special event starts right now. The reason that I asked Laura and Dom to lead us in this session wasn't just completely nepotism. When you think of like what a foodie is, they are the definition of a foodie. Not only are they adventurous eaters who are always seeking out cool places to eat at where they live in LA, but also in their travels, but they're also both amazing creative cooks. We started this family, we call it Top Chef COVID edition. We started it last year, and it's a group of about, I think 15 of us in our family. We're on a text chain, and it started off like pretty organized where we would have weekly competitions and have like a winner of each week. But now it has kind of just morphed into, if you make a cool looking meal, just send a picture to the group. Laura and Dom continually raise the bar in this area, not just with food, but with cocktails too. They throw dinner parties, they go all out. So that's why I asked them to do this from a food and drink perspective, but also from a movie perspective. They are both cinephiles. And on top of that, this could sound bad, but I mean this in the most complimentary way. Dom hates like every movie. He's like the most critical, movie person that I know in real life, but he loves The Talented Mr. Ripley. So if Dom likes a movie, I very much respect his opinion. I mean, I respect his opinion anyway, but if he likes it, like, I know it's really good. He's not one of these people who just be like, oh, it was great. Like, you should see it. Like, if he doesn't think you should see it, he'll let you know. Tell us what we're making and the ingredients that we're going to need.
Okay, so I am making a limoncello martini, and I cannot take full credit for it because I did find an inspired cocktail online, which someone called a Marge's martini. I picked this because in one of the scenes where she first meets Tom Ripley, she makes martini for him. They were like asking him to make martini, and he was like very shyly, like, I don't even know if he had ever made a cocktail before. So this is a really, really simple recipe. It's just limoncello, gin, and then a lemon peel. So I'm going to start with...
What are we starting with? Because I'm going to make this along with you. Gin?
Yep. You can really use whatever gin. I feel like a lot of people use like Tanqueray, Bombay Sapphire.
All right, wait, another question. Is this going in a cocktail shaker?
Yes.
All right, so step one is 1 ounce of gin into the shaker.
Yeah. And then you're just going to do 1 ounce of limoncello.
What do you bring with?
Into the shaker.
I feel like I'm going to spill.
And then you're just going to do a handful of ice.
Okay, so it's 1 and 1. Can you show us what kind of limoncello you're using?
Yes. So this is from Whole Foods. They sell a lot of like local brands there. So this is from like Ventura. And then like any other martini, you just want to shake it up until it's like really cold and it hurts your hands. And then for a glass, I just usually use a coupe for my martinis, but if you have a fancy martini glass, you can use that also. So I'm
gonna go shake mine over the sink because I can see this like exploding.
And then all you're gonna do is just take
Wait for me with the lemon.
Okay.
I need to know how to do this. I was like hopeful that you'll teach me how to do the.
Do you need me to show you how to actually cut it into a twist?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you like position the camera?
I like pre-cut mine because it's a little,
Oh,
but I could explain it to you.
okay. Wait, let me shake mine first.
Okay, great.
All right.
How do you feel about using vodka instead of gin?
That's
Would
fine.
that be a, yeah?
I feel like gin isn't for a lot of people, and with a martini, like I feel like a lot of people just hate gin. I prefer gin, but especially with limoncello, like vodka goes really well. So
I feel like most people prefer a vodka martini instead of a
yeah,
gin martini.
I'm just in the odds.
Okay, let's talk about the lemon.
Do you want to do it the fancy way, or you want to do like?
I want to do it the fancy way.
Okay, I got you. So you just need like a tiny knife. Do you
A
like
paring knife?
Yeah. So you're gonna cut the ends of it.
Like cut this part off?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then cut the other end so that you have like a flat surface when you turn on it.
Okay. I see.
And then you're just gonna cut around like the edge of the peel so that you're almost like you're cutting out the center of it.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't quite.
That's okay. No, it's okay. You don't even need it to fall out because it's gonna, once you get to the last step, it's gonna fall out anyway. But
Okay.
so just cut the same thing you just did on the other side,
Okay.
and then flip it on its side and just cut like however thick you want it. I would prefer doing it thinner. I just think it looks prettier. And then you are going to twist it a little bit so it comes out as a twist.
Oh my goodness. Where did you learn how to do this? On YouTube?
Yeah.
So smart. You don't like rub it around the rim?
If you want to, it's personally for me, because limoncello is already so lemony, I think
Just drop it in?
it's better dropping it in. Yeah.
That's our first cocktail?
Yes.
Should we try it?
Sure.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
Lemon is not for me.
I couldn't believe I had to buy this big bottle of limoncello
I
today.
know. I'm not gonna lie, we don't drink limoncello much, but I will say if you have like friends over, I feel like it's a good like end of the night little cap. If you just
I would
put it in a shot glass.
I love limoncello, and now I'm going to make these all the time. I didn't realize like how simple this was.
Yeah.
And now that I know the lemon trick,
it's great.
changes everything.
It's just simple. Do you want to taste?
But doesn't that look so much better than just using your potato peeler and plopping it in there? I'm excited about that.
So had you not known about the lemon twist
No.
trick?
No.
Yeah.
I
always-
knew that trick when I made my cocktail, but
This is
Uh-oh.
We're kept it a secret
competition,
from me, so.
so
it's all right.
Dom, do you want to start on cocktail number 2?
Sure.
Jimmy, do you want to make this one?
No,
Oh,
go for
I
it.
guess I'm going for this one too.
Mine is very simple, so it should be pretty easy to replicate. So my cocktail is an Americano. Are you familiar with that, Michelle, or anyone else on the call familiar with that cocktail?
No, and I've never had a Campari based drink before. I've had this is so silly. At Disney World in Epcot, they had, it was gone and now it's back, this little stand that has sodas from around the world in it. So they have like one from Israel, which was my favorite one. That's the one came to mind immediately. But they have an Italian soda there, and it's bitter. And I remember like I tried the 8 different sodas because you can just kind of bring a little sample cup to try them all. And I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever tried. So hearing that Campari is a bitter Italian drink, I haven't been super like running to like have the cocktail, but I will say that I was just saying this to Jimmy when we were walking before. I said, I wonder if Campari based drinks have become more popular just for the Instagram factor because they are really pretty because of the color. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that and like Aperol Spritz, both of those, which are very like Italian summery cocktails, I think have gained more attention in the past like couple years. because everyone.
And Aperol, how is that different, like taste wise, than Campari?
So they're similar. Campari is more bitter than Aperol, and Aperol is is sweeter than Campari. So it's really just based on what you prefer. I like my drinks as bitter as possible, so I always go with Campari. But if you don't like the bitterness as much, you'd probably like Aperol more. But they are very similar.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to add too that I think makes these liquors really popular is they're lower in alcohol. It's a lower alcohol content, so it's definitely, if you're not trying to have a super strong drink, it's definitely good to go with either Campari or Aperol. It's a lot lighter, and you can have a few without, feeling the effects of a strong drink. This one, there's 2 liquors in it. So we're going to be using Campari and vermouth in this, but both have a low alcohol content, so it should be pretty easy to drink. But
good for a Monday night drink. Are we going to use this thing again?
Yes, but no jigger. So we're just going to be using the jigger. You could eyeball it if you want to. Just for the sake of this presentation, I'll use the jigger just to make it exact. But in reality, I'd probably just pour it in, just eyeball it.
Just equal parts?
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want. So you want equal amounts of vermouth and Campari.
Okay, so equal parts vermouth and Campari. And you said you were going to use a tall glass?
So I'm using a highball glass. And I was explaining to Michelle before the call, the reason I'm using this is because you're going to top it off with soda water at the end. And I prefer as much soda water as possible, for the carbonation. So since this is a taller glass, after we put in the 2 liquors, I'm just going to top off the rest of the glass with soda water. I'm using sparkling water, but any soda water you could use. So are you ready, Michelle?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. And also, we're going to use a spoon to stir.
Stir. Like this?
Yes. All right. So you start off with the Campari. We didn't have Campari at our liquor store, so I found the closest thing, which is just another bitter aperitif liquor. Michelle, you have Campari, so yours will probably come out closer to the actual cocktail recipe.
From Milan too.
Yes, from Milan.
Oh, nice. Look at that. And also, yours is going to have that nice red color because you can see ours kind of has a little more of an orange color.
Yeah, but you have a cuter label.
Yeah. So.
It matters.
And yeah, so we'll do the same thing that Laura did with the 1 ounce.
That is beautiful.
So 1 ounce, and then you'll do another 1 ounce of the sweet vermouth.
Now, Jimmy had to go buy this. We did have dry vermouth. What is, why is this used instead of dry vermouth? What's the...
So, exactly like it's the sweet vermouth versus dry vermouth. So I know Laura uses a lot of dry vermouth when she's making martinis because it gives it that I guess, dry flavor, really. But this, because the Campari is so bitter, adding the sweet vermouth gives it kind of a sweet counterbalance to the bitter.
Oh, okay.
More well-rounded.
All right, so I'm going to add that in.
Yeah, and 1 ounce of that as well.
It kind of smells like I'm going to say medicine, like herbal medicine.
And that's exactly what we're going for with this drink. We want a nice medicine flavor. And then you're just going to stir it with ice just to chill the alcohol. So I'll try and
Stirring is better than mine.
My ice melted a little bit, so it's kind of easier for me to stir.
Yeah, I feel like I don't have a good radius here.
But once it's chilled, all you're going to do is, like I said before, you're just going to top off the rest of the drink with type of carbonated soda. So I'm using sparkling water.
I said I was going to put this into a soup container, and I didn't. So this is just my I look like I'm going to a barbecue with this thing. Just fill it to the top?
Yeah, you're just going to fill it to the top. Try and do this. Oh, there we go.
Michelle, I love that you need 2 hands for that thing.
This thing is like, it's not from Costco, but it feels like it's from
Industrial
Costco.
sized.
And so you can stir it. It'll probably taste better because you're kind of mixing all of the liquors around. I would probably just leave it as is because as you can see, it kind of has, I don't know how yours looks, Michelle, but mine has kind of like that liquor color at the bottom, and it has like, that kind of carbonated look at the top. So it looks very pretty. It's not as, as well mixed, but it's all about the picture. So who cares?
So you're saying for aesthetics, don't stir it, but for taste, stir it?
Yeah. If no one was looking, I'd stir it, but we make sure it looks.
I'll take a picture of this so that I have my photographic evidence, and then I'll stir it before I drink it, so I get the best tasting experience.
So, and then the one last thing you want to do is just add the garnish. So,
I forgot about.
So I didn't know Laura's trick, so my garnishes didn't come out too well. So instead, I just cut a slice of orange. So I just cut like an orange wedge, and
like Blue Moon style,
and then just put it in.
Oh, okay. Well, that looks good.
It's not as pretty, but it gets.
I will say for the settings in the movies that each of these were inspired from. So like the martini was like at their beautiful villa that they lived in, and the Americano we thought of because of the scene where they're at like that very loud jazz pub and they're singing Americano. So I feel like the aesthetic with classy lemon twist versus just a wedge kind of matches the settings that they're both in.
Yeah, and I feel like we kind of came to these cocktails backwards because since Laura she really likes martinis and I really like Campari and soda drinks, we pretty much just wanted to drink the drinks we like and we're just like, okay, what does this have to do with the movie? But yeah, like what Laura was saying, it kind of worked out well because both of these cocktails have, like a strong citrus flavor, which definitely lends itself to, to the Italian coast setting of the movie. And specifically with the Americano cocktail, it has a strong bitter flavor, which I guess it kind of relates to the whole murder mystery thriller aspect of the movie. That's probably the closest thing we can get to kind of portraying that theme in the movie without just poisoning the cocktail. So perfect cocktails for when you're summering in Italy, evading the police.
Yeah.
We're not going to make a snack tonight, but I was curious, like, if you were to have a snack with these 2 cocktails, what would you pair with them? It doesn't have to be on theme with the movie, just in general.
Because these are both Italian cocktails, I feel like any type of like Italian appetizer would pair really nice with these. If you just do like a meat and cheese board and some bread, olive oil, and maybe some like fruits. I don't know, nothing too heavy, obviously. Like I personally don't really like drinking sweet cocktails with dinner. Like I would prefer to have wine while I'm actually eating, like especially if you're doing an Italian meal, which I think would kind of follow after these cocktails. They're very like heavy and usually like sauce based, having a lot of like carbs and cheeses. So I would probably recommend like keeping it on the lighter side. We had some friends over a couple weekends ago and we did like very like kind of light Italian appetizers, which I feel like would pair nicely with these. So just like, again, meat and cheese board, maybe like some bruschetta with some crusty bread, and even just like some nuts like pistachios and things like that would pair nicely with this. Definitely keeping the Italian theme live, not even in relation to Talented Mr. Ripley.
If someone wanted to make a mocktail version of these, what would be in that recipe?
So I think for the martini, a simple adjustment would just be making like fresh lemonade. So like actually squeezing, like doing everything from scratch. I just think like fresh squeezed lemonade would make you feel a little bit fancier. You could still actually do the lemon twist. And if you wanted to be a little bit more like cocktail centric, you can almost like top it off with soda water. So it's almost like a lemonade, like fizz. I've been seeing more and more restaurants have more of like a mocktail menu that's actually like very creative in what they're putting in there. It's not just like, soft drinks. So I think that's going to end up like becoming more common in restaurants.
And what about the Americano? What if we wanted to make a mocktail version of the Americano?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you want that bitter taste. I'm not sure what a mocktail version of that would be. I would say pretty much like the saying, if you were to do some type of fruit juice with a carbonated soda, would kind of capture that essence of like a light, refreshing like summer cocktail. Like if you were to go for maybe grapefruit juice with soda water, or actually probably adding tonic water, it won't be as bitter, but you still get some of that kind of tonic bitterness with it. So I would say probably some type of grapefruit juice topped with tonic water would probably be a close equivalent.
So let's talk about the movie a little bit. Had everyone seen it before?
I had not.
So Ray, this is your first time seeing it. Let's hear your thoughts, Ray.
So I watched it last night, and I basically sort of went into it. I had no idea, other than like the short synopsis. I had no idea what to expect at all, other than it's like, okay, it's Matt Damon, and not what I was expecting at all. Was very surprised, and then when it ended, I was like, wait, what? That's it? But I liked it. It was definitely very interesting. I felt like it took me a while to sort of figure out what was going to have an idea of what was going to be happening, because I couldn't really figure out Matt Damon's character was like what. I couldn't figure out what he was doing. Like what's his plan here?
I love your reaction to that, because first of all, it's an interesting perspective to come into a Matt Damon movie in the year 2021 that you hadn't seen before, where he's the first character that we meet. I think we would come in with this preconceived notion that he's a good guy. Like, he's Matt Damon and he's the main character. So like, this is our protagonist. This is the guy we're rooting for. You don't realize just how bad he is until like the very end. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, this is what he was like doing like throughout the entire movie. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, I was, because even when he like openly admits like, I'm good at like basically conning people, and he sort of, Jude Law, laughs it off. But you're like, okay, like, where's this going? Like, the stuff starts happening, and then, he kills Jude Law's character, and you're like, okay, well, he's sort of angry. So is this like on purpose, or is this an accident? Like, and then it keeps going, and you're like, no, I guess he did that completely on purpose.
Did you hate him? Did you find him repulsive up to the very end, or right before the very end?
Or I guess, no, I didn't really hate him. I feel like he was, by the end, like at the end, and when it ended, I sort of did, because I that was very it couldn't be conceived as like he needed to do this to protect himself, sort of thing. Like, he just murdered this guy. It was weird to see Matt, and it's sort of like what Michelle was saying, it was weird to see Matt Damon sort of be this like not good character, like not sort of the guy you want to root for anymore.
Yeah, and Ray, what you're saying about how you weren't sure what Matt Damon's goals and like what was driving him. I almost feel like that's almost on purpose. Like I've seen the movie a lot, and I've read the book as well. And even after the last time I watched it, which Laura and I watched it last week to brush up on the movie, I'm still not entirely sure what his interests are, like what his motivations are, what his goals are. And I feel like that's on purpose. I feel like it's done really well in the movie, where like he says right in the beginning of the movie, like his skills are forgery and impersonating people. like he almost doesn't have his own interests. His interests are what other people like. He just wants to, he's like attracted to Jude Law's magnetic personality, so he wants to like whatever Jude Law's character likes, and which I love about the movie, the kind of weird psychological kind of aspect of that I find interesting.
Yeah.
And also like what you guys were saying with how it's kind of surprising to see Matt Damon play such an evil character. I feel like it was a really good job for the movie on casting Matt Damon. It's almost like weaponizing kind of like your preconceived notions of him as like like a good person, like Goodwill Hunting, and kind of turn that against them. And I think it kind of works in the movie's favor.
Yeah. And I have to say, Kathy, what you said, like so Dom read the book, so he just has like a lot more like deeper understanding, I feel like of the ways that they've kind of played into it. But what you said about like repulsion, like so I've seen it once, like maybe a year ago. And when you watch a movie the second time and your whole, like, I feel like outlook on films, like just kind of changes, or you pick up on more stuff. Like the second time I watched it last week, I was like, wow, I really hate him. Like I was like so repulsed by everything that he was doing. And even like his smile was bothering me. I don't know what it was. It was just like, because it was, I mean, a part of it, you always like look to the reasons why they're doing this. Like, he obviously has a lot of like pain going on. So like you obviously feel sorry for him in a way, but I feel like the second time I watched it, I just didn't feel bad for him. I was like, just so annoyed by everything that he was doing. But in a way, like Dom always says about all the characters in the movie are kind of horrible people. I personally think besides Marge, like Marge is like kind of the only nice person, but in a way she kind of like fuels Dickie because she like knows that he's a horrible person also. And she just kind of like goes along with it. But I don't know, in a way you can kind of play devil's advocate that she's really being manipulated by another person who's kind of like forging his life and acting in a certain way. But I don't know what it was. Like the second time I watched it, I almost like couldn't watch Matt Damon because I was just so like visibly angry with everything that he was.
He was so irritating. He was.
Yeah.
And Marge, she says, there's a line where she says there's a side to Dickie that you don't know.
Yeah.
And she's, trying to get into the apartment thinking that he's in there and he's rejecting her. And she's just heartbroken. And, what woman doesn't relate to that? I think, like, no, but, this is the gruff exterior, but,
Yeah, she says he's so tender.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I think it's just Jude Law.
Yeah. Just Jude Law.
I think she's overlooking a lot of flaws.
Yeah. But it's interesting because she kind of is played by Tom in the beginning. Like when he first like comes and is like, oh, like Dickie's not coming home, like he's in Rome, like she like believes him. And I was kind of trying to think of it from an audience perspective because we know everything that he's doing. So we kind of have this skewed perception of like, how do you not understand that he's conning you? And I think especially with Peter, I really feel this because he's such like a sweet and innocent character, but he's also dumb. Like he's completely being conned by this person. But at the same time, like if you were on the other side, like, and you didn't really know this person that well, like, could you possibly be conned by him? Like, do we just have that perspective because we're like yelling at the TV? Like, how do you not understand that he's playing you? So you kind of have to like take it a step back. Like if you were in their shoes, like, would you get played by him also? Well,
that's the true terror of the movie, right?
Yes.
Who is that? Could I fall for that? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I actually had weird dreams after watching it again.
Yeah. Well, I think I did too. It's a very like, I think it's a very unnerving film because it's not like all other, I think, murder movies where it's kind of like there's obviously a detective in play, but it's more about just kind of watching Tom like build up to this person who he in a way is always, you know, there's a part of him that's kind of this, he's malicious in some way, but like he really like it builds up to him becoming this like insane person who just keeps killing people. So, but it's like trying to enter his psyche, kind of how Dom says that it's like very like psychologically, I think, unnerving.
Maybe I feel like that's what I was feeling most of the way, like, because it wasn't until, you know, like halfway when he gets angry with Dickie or whatever. But I would like, I guess I'm also like I feel like I'm used to movies where I can sort of figure out, like, I know what's going to happen. And so with this one, I was like, it's weird sitting here. Like, I felt like I was missing something because I didn't know what was like coming and I couldn't figure out what was happening. I was just like, okay, I don't know where this is going.
I felt the same way, right? I think that unnerving feeling was, even though I had seen it before, it was understanding that Tom Ripley also didn't really have a plan, that he was just kind of like making it up as he goes along. So it's like, oh, you're crazy and unpredictable and out of control. And like, who knows what's going to happen next?
And he wasn't entirely evil. That was that little part of you that's thinking he's not entirely evil.
No, yeah. I kind of felt the opposite of Laura at like the ends, like, even though he killed all those people, like I kind of still felt bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more so like, in a way, I always play devil's advocate. Like I always, like Dom always makes fun of me because I feel like in movies I'm always like dissecting the most ridiculous themes. But even in like the opening scenes where you kind of like saw where he was like literally living in the basement in a New York City apartment across from a meat market with screaming people above him. Like he, setting wise, was in like a horrible place in his life. Like, okay, yeah, maybe he had like his piano gig and stuff. It's not like it was all bad, but like it's kind of the theme of like literally bitterness and wanting what you can't have. And like, imagine being not saying you should go and kill people, but like the reason he's so drawn to Dickie and Marge and this whole life that he's kind of just like swooped up in, like he was going to leave Italy and Dickie was like, no, stay. Like, we're going to go to a jazz club. Like he takes him under his wing. It's this guy who has all this money and like, he's this lavish life and he gets girls and he's just like, you know, like, I feel like he kind of like got wrapped up in it without, again, like what you said, he didn't really have a plan. And then it just kind of went south and then he just becomes a sociopathic killer along the way. So in a way, you know, you sympathize with the fact that like, you could see why he kind of got himself into that situation. It was easy for him. He didn't have an easy life before, and now he did, where he didn't really need to do anything or be anything. He was just kind of there enjoying life. Yeah.
And he kind of had nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Either, which was the attitude that I was kind of getting from him. Like, you know, why not? I already killed someone. Why not kill another guy? Then I think it just, you know, probably became easier for him.
Yeah.
Around here, but I have in the style of Rewatchables podcast, an unanswered question that I have a feeling that is an answered question. I just didn't understand it. But in the scene where Marge finds the rings and she's onto him, and he comes out of the bathroom with his hand in his robe, I think it's his robe pocket, and he's holding on to like I guess like a razor. Was he gonna kill her? Why does he end up like cutting himself?
Yeah, I didn't understand that either, because I figured his plan was to kill her and then Peter interrupted. But his hand was bleeding before Peter got there, so I don't know why he ended up cutting himself, or if it was just sort of supposed to be like an accident. He got surprised and like grabbed the razor, I don't know. But yeah, I was confused by the fact that he was bleeding before Peter got there, because it seemed like he was able to play it off as, well, now I'm bleeding and I need to go take care of this or whatever.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I was sort of confused by that.
I think he was working himself up. That
So
was
you
my
think he just
impression.
got
Like he had the idea, I'm going to take this razor out, I'm going to hide it. And then he's trying to be friendly and talk, not friendly, but, just talk to her in a non-confrontational way, da, da, da. And it just, I don't know. To me, it seemed like his showing that it was very premeditated and that he was getting like weirder, like, just tenser and gross. And yeah, that was so much so that he didn't even realize that he's hurting himself, I don't know. To me, that was a very creepy scene. I was just crawling.
She's terrified. It's like she figures out in that moment. Yeah, I don't know, Michelle. For me, I thought like in the scene before, if you think about the mindset that he was in, he was panicking. He was like, I'm screwed. Like, I'm just like, he was like, please, like, just give me a second, Marge. Like, you're not letting me. And he kind of was panicking. He was trying to look for a weapon. He was trying to look for something that to kind of like, I mean, in both Dickie and Freddie's murders, like he didn't like plan to kill them. Like it was kind of in the moment. So I think it was just kind of another, let me just figure it out as I'm going about this situation. I don't really know about cutting his own hand. I think he kind of just like had it in his pocket and he might have just cut. Like I almost feel like he might have not even felt it in the moment. Like he might have just had his hand in his pocket and he sliced his finger. Like have you ever just like, I don't know, I have a low pain tolerance, so I feel like but he might have not even felt it. And then he was like, oh, like, then he told Peter, like, oh, I cut my hand. Like, I don't know, just another lie.
Did you guys have any other unanswerable questions or things that you were like confused by?
I think there was a lot of things that were unanswered to me. And I almost choose to believe that a lot of things that are left unanswered was on purpose, to kind of, because Tom Ripley is such an confusing person to understand. Specifically, Jude Law's character and Philip Seymour Hoffman's character. I love how they're so shallow. Like you, within 3 minutes of meeting Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, you know everything about him. You know, like his likes, his dislikes. There's no nuance to him, which I love, and I think Jude Law's character is the same way. But I feel like a lot of the confusion around Tom Ripley was intentional, because they leave those things unanswered, and you kind of just need to assume based on what you're looking at. You have a lot of the discussion like what we're having now, where you're not sure what the answer is, but you're kind of just making assumptions based on what you see. I find that a lot more interesting than just having like a voiceover narration or like some exposition dialogue telling you the answer to a lot of these questions.
It's definitely a more sophisticated way to tell a story, and respects the audience, trusts that we're going to be smart enough, because I think that there are a lot of people who are not okay with not having every single answer.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think people like us kind of welcome it, because it means that we can have discussions about it and debate it and know that there might not be like an exact right answer to it.
But at the same time, I laugh at how every other line of Jude Law's character is him saying what he finds boring. Like there's no nuance to his like opinions or likes and dislikes at all. Like he'll tell you what he finds boring and what he finds interesting. So I find that so funny.
But that contrast makes Tom Ripley an even stronger and more compelling character, because he's in these scenes with people like him and Philip Seymour Hoffman, with Freddie, and yeah, those scenes they were definitely the most entertaining to me.
It's interesting though, because I always look for kind of like the key screenplay things, but they really do like the reason I kind of thought of actually the cocktail was like I liked how they showed in that scene where they're like, oh, like, will you, make this cocktail for me? And he's very shy and he's like, no. He doesn't even say anything. He just kind of looks at them like he's never made a cocktail before. And then if you fast forward to like an hour later into the movie, Marge is going to visit him in Rome. And he's like, Marge, sit down, relax. I'll make you a cocktail. And she's like, you know what I was just thinking about? Like, she says, like, I was just telling Peter about when you moved here. And look at you now. And it's kind of like this like aha moment of like, he was no one and now he's not anyone now, but he thinks he is. Like he totally took on Dickie's persona. And it's like the way that he dresses and even what Freddie says, like, he's like, nothing in this apartment is Dickie except you. Like he's like trying to like, pretend he's someone. So it's almost like he obviously changes throughout the movie, but he also is like pretending to be someone that he's not, because we don't really know who he is. Like he doesn't, like Dom said, like he doesn't really have any like distinguishing characteristics that you're like, oh, that's totally something that Tom would do, because he's just impersonating other people.
He's whoever he needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, you basically like get the cut out of his life because you get nothing, like nothing of like what could have caused him to be this way, and then it just ends, and you get a snapshot without any sort of backstory or explanation at all, which is it's definitely an interesting like way to tell a story, like to have in a movie where because like we were talking about, where so many movies do want to explain those things, and this one is just like, nope, this is the part of his story that you get, and that's it. You don't get any explanation.
It's interesting that you say that, right? Because until you just said that, I don't think I've ever once like thought about his parents or where he came from. Like I just like kind of accept just like the setting that we're in, and like this is who he is almost. I don't know. Like I really haven't really thought about his background at all, because it hasn't like really forced us to, because we have no idea. We don't even know where he went to school. We know nothing about him, which is
I want to know all of that stuff. I did have a thought. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, is this the first time that this is happening? And then also what happens next? So Dom, have you read the other, because there's more than one book about him, right?
Oh,
have you read all of them?
No, so I know there's a book series. I've only read the Talented Mr. Ripley book. I'm typically not a fan of book series, almost because I before reading a book, I like when it's kind of a standalone book, because I like there being the possibility that like the main character dies or the story ends. I don't really like how, if there's a sequel, I know that the main character story continues. So I almost, after reading the Talented Mr. Ripley book, I didn't want to read the other books to know how it continues. But I heard that the other books are really good. But there's a few Tom Ripley movie adaptations. I've watched another one that's based on another book. Not nearly as good, but there's a few movies based on the different books.
When you read the book, did you get answers? Like, we're saying does it give you a little more?
So it's definitely dives deep into his psychology and his thinking behind his actions, which he's insane. He is without a doubt crazy in the book. But it's almost, it kind of adds some humor to the story. Because when you are reading his inner monologue, to him, he's, the most normal person on earth. Like, everyone else is crazy. So just reading how he talks about the other people is funny. Like, he's, on the run from the police, and the main issue in his head is the outfit that Marge is wearing, how tacky it is. It's like insane, but also really funny. So if you guys, I definitely recommend the book.
That's very interesting.
He's also like obsessed with his personal image in the book. It's kind of portrayed in the movie, but I don't think there's not a lot of like food scenes or anything like that. But one of the like meals we were thinking of making was like a radicchio salad, because he's just like obsessed with like how he looks and like what he eats. Like, he doesn't eat anything bad. He eats like very clean. And it's kind of portrayed in the movie in terms of like what he he doesn't have like a good sense of style before he moves to Italy. Like he's kind of just wearing the same corduroy jacket and they keep making fun of him. But then he kind of like, morphs into suits and stuff. But he's in very good shape. Like Matt Damon is like, he looks like he hasn't eaten like a carb ever in that movie. He's very skinny. And
it's a little stereotypical, if you're thinking about him being gay, and that it doesn't really go into that, but it is definitely there's a lot of that stereotype behavior. And I wondered why. I don't know if it was just a time of the movie, when it was made, but the rings, like he panicked, but he never said to Marge, well, that's because, he could have just invented their whole relationship that he had in his head.
mm-hmm.
I was thinking that. I'm like, yeah, just tell her. But
yeah, there was other ways to get out of that. There was a few, I can't remember all of them now, but there was a few times I'm thinking, well, you could have, he really just could have, that part could have been more prominent.
And in a way, it wouldn't have been a full lie because, not that they like physically did anything, but they kind of had a relationship. And like, Dickie just didn't really want to fully admit it. But Marge is kind of like, she knows what's going on, but she just chooses to not address it because she's in love with him. And like, she's kind of like, it's like love is blind. Like she just like doesn't want to fully recognize his flaws. But even like when Tom and Marge are on the boat and they're having that conversation and she's like, here's how it is with Dickie. Like he literally like makes people fall in love with him, basically, is what she was saying. And like, even the relationship between him and Freddie, like Freddie's definitely gay also in a way, like, and they have a very like strong, bond and relationship. And like, I feel like she's somewhat aware of it, but she just like doesn't, it's almost like she doesn't want to believe it. So I don't know what the reaction, that's an interesting twist though. If you think about it, what would her reaction would have been if she had made it that narrative instead of saying, I'm in love with you. If she was like, no, I am in love with him. We are in love with each other. And he gave me these rings. Who knows?
There's even a scene. There's a scene in outdoor cafe where there's two guys. One is sitting on the other guy's lap. It's a very intimate scene. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then they turn their head to look at a woman. They're like, ooh, yeah. And that is a very Mediterranean kind of behavior. I know you can't always tell. It's not like it is here, that these guys could be, whatever. So maybe she's thinking, they're just like, that maybe that's what she's telling herself. Like
that's an interesting. I totally picked up on that scene. It's because it's in the background, but it's almost like they want you to see that.
Right.
But also, like, there's a scene where Peter and him are talking to the police, and he's like, "Are you his like boyfriend?" And he's like, "I don't feel like comfortable, whatever." And Peter's like, "Yeah, because there's 0 gay men in Italy." There's not one gay man like in this country, which I thought was just such a funny like little like sprinkle because it's like an aha moment where the police chief is like, yeah, like obviously there's no gay men, but then he laughs about the fact that he has like multiple fiancés.
Right. Like that's acceptable.
So Kathy and Michelle, you've seen the movie multiple times?
Yeah, I've only seen it twice. So I watched it once before, and Jimmy said to me, he's like, I remember when you saw it, you said you were so disturbed by it. And I couldn't really, the only thing that I could remember was that I knew it was like beautiful. Like there are beautiful people in it in a beautiful setting. And usually that's like enough to hook me. So no, in this rewatch, really, really enjoyed it. Would absolutely watch it again and again. And maybe I'm just kind of hardened by, I've watched so many more things at this point in my life that like, definitely disturbing, but like, I don't know, it didn't get to me the way I thought that it would.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. I wanted to see if you two had a different opinion on the movie on a second rewatch.
I was definitely disturbed because usually, it's boring. It's so boring knowing what's going to happen. And how many movies, it's just like that. You're like, I could take a nap. No, I often do take a nap. I'm just like, no, honey, you go ahead. But I love that we didn't know exactly what was going on. You don't know what's happening. Even now, we could watch it again and pick up on something else. I was shocked that first time, but I remember that I really liked it just for that reason. It was just, and I'm sure it was also, I don't know, it's interesting. It's beautiful. It's interesting. And it holds your attention. The second time around, I watched it alone. And I was interested and creeped out too. Like I said, I had some weird dreams. Just like I don't like horror in any way, but I do like thrillers, a psychological thriller, and that was great. And I would watch it again, if for nothing else. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I honestly feel like I couldn't stop thinking about it the next couple of days after I watched it last week. Like I just kept thinking about it over the past couple of days, like different scenes, and it definitely sticks with you. It kind of like is psychologically like messes you up a little bit trying to figure it out. So
it's also beautiful in the way that it's almost in a weird way a pre-vacation movie. If you could just kind of get into that frame of mind of like, let me just enjoy life.
There's a similar book or movie you were talking about, right?
One movie that comes to mind that's very similar that I really liked is A Bigger Splash. It's from it's an Italian director, Luca Guadagnino. He made Call Me by Your Name. And I've seen too many other movies, but A Bigger Splash is kind of similar, where it takes place on a vacation in I think it's an island off the coast of Italy. And kind of similar plot, where there's a lot of murder and mystery and all that fun stuff. So if you guys want more of the same, I definitely recommend that movie.
Bigger Splash.
Thanks for the recommendation. And we didn't get to ask Ray. Ray, would you watch this? Would you watch Talented Mr. Ripley again, or you had enough?
No, I think I would, just to see, since I went into it like completely unknown. I feel like watching it again, I would be able to catch a lot of things that I like in trying to like figure out what was happening. I wasn't paying attention to. So yeah, I think I'd definitely watch it again. It'd be interesting to watch it again, knowing how it's going to, like, what happens. Because then, you're approaching it differently. One of the things that would be interesting, also reading the book, because he, at least, and maybe it's just Matt Damon as an actor, can play innocent really well. So there were so many scenes where it's like, he seemed very innocent, and then something crazy happens, and you're like, so how innocent was he in this scene? Like, was he
very
fake?
True, yeah.
Or was that actual, just like innocently, doing something and then coming back later? But yeah, I definitely would watch it again. It was interesting. And like Kathy, I do not like sort of horror movies, but I do like psychological thrillers. I do like the thriller type, trying to figure out a mystery.
I agree. I like anything where it leaves room for your imagination as to like what's going to happen. They don't have to show you everything. I mean, that's like, I think why I love Hitchcock movies so much is like, you don't see a lot of it. You imagine it, and what you imagine can be worse than what happens.
And the setting definitely helps, because it's just so beautiful to watch, and it just makes you want to move to Italy. Like,
and not get murdered, hopefully.
Yeah. Be careful who you talk to at the train station.
Yes.
Before you go, if you loved this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Inside our membership site, you'll gain access to live events like this one, plus bonus content including weekly guides, food and drink pairings, and creative prompts. Best of all, you'll have the opportunity to discuss your favorite movies, television, and books with our community members. Until next time.